Hello and welcome back to the Spotlight Indie for a brand new feature that we're starting with the amazing Tim Hardie kicking us off with this. Welcome to the Spotlight Library. So we're going to talk to Tim in a second, but what we're going to do is have readings of authors' short stories. So Tim's got a short story collection called A Roll of Dice, and we've got the friend of the channel, R J Bayley, has narrated it. So we'll get to that later, and you'll be able to listen to that, and it's going to be great. So this is the first one of those. Before we dive in, I want to remind everybody that we are coming up to our live event in Shrewsbury in just a few weeks' time, which is going to be absolutely amazing. We're going to have Spellbound Entertainment there. We've got loads of panels. We've got authors. We've got traders. You've got authors selling books. We've got people selling cupcakes and merchandise and everything. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. It's free to attend. So you can just turn up. It's at Flaxmill Maltings in Shrewsbury on the 23rd of May. Come along. There's still a few trader tables around going. So if you want to, come along and sell your own stuff, because we love to support indie creatives, reach out to us. You can reach out to me as well on social media or the Spotlight Indie team, and we'll sort that out for you. Right. We hope to see you there. Now let's talk to Tim. Hi, Tim.
Hello.
Hi. Nice to have you here. As a not just behind the scenes, because you do a lot of the Spotlight Indie web stuff and the Patreon stuff. So it's nice to have you in the spotlight rather than behind it.
Yeah, I try and avoid the spotlight, but every now and again, you guys find excuses to drag me in front of it. So thanks very much.
Every so often we'll drag you in front of it. It's great to have you. So we're going to talk a little bit about the stories in a second, but these short stories are based in the same world as your series behind you that we can see, the Hall of Bones and that series. So did you want to just give a little introduction to that and yourself as well, just so people, whoever those few people are that don't know you yet, so they can be introduced to you?
There's a way to go, Alex, before I'm ubiquitous. But so I'm Tim Hardie. I'm a UK-based fantasy author, write independently as things stand. And probably my most well-known series is The Brotherhood of the Eagle, and the book behind me, The Hall of Bones, was the debut of that particular complete series now, actually, which is a nice thing to be able to say. That made the SPFBO finals a few years ago, which kind of put me in the spotlight in a very welcome way. And I've been sort of writing and developing stories and tales in that world for the last probably the last decade, really.
Yeah, and we're so grateful that you have.
Thank you. That's very nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also enjoying the T-shirt that we can see. I think it just says "I write" at the moment. I assume
it has more. What's your superpower?
Nice. Yeah, I like that. Well, I also write. So let's go.
You do. It's a rare skill, and we should celebrate it, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what we're here to do. You've got a few, or you've got the Brotherhood of the Eagle series, and there's also a standalone, I think, you've got available as well.
That's right. That's called A Quiet Vengeance. So set in the same fantasy world, but a different continent. So, and I'm hoping to return to that actually later on this year and start working again in that space as well.
Oh, nice. And the Hall of Bones is more of as a kind of Norse. That's kind of the setting is sort of Scandinavia. Is that right?
Yeah. So I call it Viking inspired because I don't have any of the Norse pantheon involved in this at all. So it's more about, I think, cultural points of reference, things like that. But it creates that general vibe for the setting, and then I sort of superimpose my sort of fantasy world and fantasy deities into that environment.
So I think that's I'm also a fan of that and have done that myself. So just drop that a little bit in there as well.
Yeah, I think you should.
No. So this story that we're going to hear in a second is from a collection that you've got of other stories, but you don't need to have you don't need to have read the series, the Brotherhood of the Eagle series at all. This one is going to be you can come to it fresh.
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, so what we're taking is one of the stories from my collection, which is called A Roll of the Dice. So it's only 4. It's like I describe it as a mini short story collection, and it's really just meant to be a taster for the world. So as in the Viking inspired part of the fantasy world. And you don't need any pre knowledge to read these. So the idea was, if you have read the main series, they're like interesting little snippets, character details. There's a little bit that expands on the history, certain things where it's hinted at. You actually get the definitive position in these stories, but equally, so there's like, I suppose it's like Easter eggs if you're familiar with the series, but equally, if you're not, they don't require any sort of prior knowledge to go in and sort of enjoy them just in their own right as short stories. And the idea again then is it's a bit of an introduction to the world, and you might want to explore the rest of the series. Who knows? Worse that you can spend your time in worse ways, definitely.
Definitely. Well, I think, that's interesting. You say, the taster. I think that's quite a good description, especially. I think it's Wise Counsel we're going to hear in a minute.
Yeah, that's right.
Because again, there's a sort of a few details dropped of like history in different parts of the world and things like that. So it is a good taster, I think, of the different aspects that you can find in the world. So I think it would serve as being a good way to, introduce people to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other part of this is that there's obviously we listened to the audio, which is narrated by R J Bayley. When I put this project together, it was a bit of a dry run for sort of recording the full-on audiobook novel audiobook for the novel Hall of Bones, which is behind me. So we ran a Kickstarter for that in 2024 to get that funded. But I was really keen that something new came out. So so a roll of the dice was kind of like the new writing. I thought, I really enjoy the short story format. It takes some getting used to. It's a very different discipline to writing full length material. But with this, we were able to create something new to give to readers and listeners immediately, basically, while we did the bigger project of getting the full novel out, which came out last year. So roll of the dice was 2024. The audio of All the Bones was 2025 when we got over the finishing line, and RJ was released from my clutches.
To do other amazing things.
Absolutely. No, he's having a great career at the moment.
Yeah, he's got a lot of other. Just as he's narrating this one, I think RJ's done a few other of our indie spotlight friends like Ella McCrae. He's done her audiobooks, I think. I feel you when you say that the short stories are a very different mindset when you go into them. When especially I think for fantasy writers, where your books, you can be like, it doesn't matter how long it is, people are going to love it anyway. As long as you tell them the story right. But it doesn't matter as much how long it is. But with short stories, you really need to keep that tight rein on that.
Yeah, and they still have to follow the rules of storytelling. So there still has to be a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the hardest things actually I've found with short stories. Sometimes there isn't an end, and what I'm starting to do is write a novel or write a chapter of a novel, and that has literally happened to me. So I've started off with short story, what I thought would be a serialized short story setting, and it just completely ran out of control and became an entire novel. I think you've got to really know what you're trying to get across in the format, and make sure that you can leave some loose ends and a few things, but it's got to stand alone. It's got to be satisfying in its own right, and it's got to be something people can access and enjoy, like I said before, without any prior knowledge, anything like that.
Yeah, and I think especially talk about loose ends or other paths that people might be interested in. Especially with this kind of taster. There's you've got to be pointing them towards those books that
absolutely
are legal. And
and I think the other reason why I chose this one was this is the audio. The audio version is the demo of Etta's voice. So Etta's a very key character in Hall of Bones and the Brotherhood series generally, and it was quite exciting to do this one, because most of these stories, they're about people who aren't in the main the main narrative, but Etta obviously is. And so it was that moment when RJ does that recording and puts her voice down, and it's oh my god, the book's going to be brilliant. It really was one of my highlights of my relatively short author career so far, was hearing sort of Etta, his interpretation of her, and thinking, oh gosh, he's going to be in the book, and that's going to be mega. So I was quite excited with that particular element, which is why I've chosen it.
Yeah, no, that feeling sounds like it's a great one to have, and I think really nice to give everyone that preview if they want to go off and hear that as well. So I think we've bigged it up probably enough at this point. We don't want to keep people from it too much. No. So before we give them let them listen to the story, do you want to just let people know where they can find you and your books and anything else you might have coming up?
Yeah, sure. So at the moment, I'm pretty much entirely involved in Spotlight Indie, so I've got very little coming up other than the event you mentioned before. But more generally, if you just want to follow me on social media, you can find me if you look for Tim Hardie Author. So my website is timhardieauthor.co.uk, so you can find me there, and that gives you all the links. And I'm present on Blue Sky, X, Instagram, and Facebook. So look for that particular combination, and you'll find me with very little difficulty.
Thanks. And of course, if you want to support Tim, apart from buying his books, he's got a Patreon as well. So
I do. Yes, you're absolutely right. And I need to tell people that more.
Yeah, exactly. We want to give you as much support as we can. Great. Okay. Well, do you want to just give a quick intro to the story, and then we'll fade in the amazing narration of R J Bayley.
Yeah, sure. So, like I said before, this is a bit of a precursor story to to Hall of Bones in the first book. It's the first time we actually encounter Etta, and yes, it's really answering the question as to why Etta is in the position she's in of power within the Reevesburg clan in the book. So this is effectively how she starts to wield her influence. So it's quite a key story from that point of view.
Perfect. Well, here we go then. Let's listen to Wise Counsel by Tim Hardie, narrated by R J Bayley. I hope you enjoy.
Wise Counsel. The 167th year of the Fallen Age. Reevesburg clan lands. Marl Rawson, chief of the Reevesburg clan, had to stifle a smile at the frantic welcome his company of warriors received at the Black Raven Inn, a small establishment found on the winding coastal road that led from the northern settlement of Calamar to the town of Reevesburg in the south. I'm so sorry. We can't possibly accommodate your entire party, not even if we gave over the common room, babbled the owner, Dufan, eyes wide as he gawked at his chief, his wife Una standing next to him. That won't be necessary, Marl assured him. My men are used to many hardships, and they will not think twice about setting up camp on the other side of the road. The prospect of cold ale and warm food after a long ride will be more than enough to raise their spirits. We can offer a roof to you and your Jarls, added Una, looking far more composed than her panicking husband. Indeed, it would be our honor to do so. Half here, she called to her son, who was loitering by the bar. Get to work in the kitchen. We have a feast to prepare. The young man almost fell through the door in his haste to follow her instructions, whilst Una went to the bar to serve the gathering crowd of men waiting for ale. Dufan lingered in front of Marl, unsure whether he was expected to continue their conversation, or if it was appropriate to leave his chief to serve his men and prepare their rooms. Please, said Marl, don't let me keep you from your duties, for I can see you're a busy man. I'll take my ease by the fire, and, when you have a moment, I'd welcome some food and ale. Of course, Chief, Dufan replied, bowing low. He hurried away, almost running straight into one of Marl's warriors in his haste. Grateful for a chance to rest after a long day in the saddle, Marl only noticed the small figure sitting at the corner of the table nearest the fire as he approached. An old woman in a patched travelling cloak looked up at him, her long grey hair pulled back in a ponytail. One of her eyes was dulled by a cataract, but the other was bright and clear, nestled in crow's feet as she regarded him carefully. "May I join you?" asked Marl. It didn't look like the woman had any travelling companions, and Marl wondered if she was related to Dufan's family in some way. The old woman smiled, revealing several missing teeth. The seat nearest the fireside is the most popular, after all. I'd welcome your company, Marl Rawson, if you're willing to share this table with an old woman. Marl chuckled. He wasn't the kind of man to deprive an elderly woman of a warm seat by the fire. As long as you're willing to share it with an old warrior, there's room enough for both of us. Your fighting days are hardly behind you, the woman remarked, with a knowing smile. There was an empty bowl in front of her, and Marl noticed there was a steaming hot black drink in her cup. The smell wafting across the table was unfamiliar to him, though not unpleasant. Tea, from distant Samarkand, the woman explained. She produced a pouch from her belt and passed it to Marl. Peering inside, he saw a stash of dried leaves, recognizing the same odor. "Not easy to come by," Marl remarked as he passed the pouch back to her. "I've made plenty of connections during my time on Amuran," she explained. Her good eye twinkled, and Marl sat back in his chair, aware he was under her scrutiny. Una interrupted them, placing ale and what smelled like vegetable soup in front of Marl, before taking away the woman's empty bowl. "There will be roasted chicken to follow," added Una. "Would you like anything else to eat, Etta?" The old woman shook her head and offered Una a kindly smile. "Your delicious soup was more than adequate. Age has sadly reduced my appetite, compared with what it once was in my youth." "There's nothing of you," Una chided. "Let me know if you change your mind." Una left to serve more customers, and Marl tried his soup, which was surprisingly tasty. The ale was good, too, and he gave a satisfied sigh as Etta drank more of her hot tea. "So, Etta, what brings you to the Black Raven? Surely you're not travelling these roads alone?" Etta blew on her cup and took another sip of tea before replying. "I always travel alone these days." "Really? Is that wise?" Etta shrugged. "The Reevesburg clan lands have never been safer since they were first settled a century ago. You have been a wise ruler, Marl Rawson. You've sensibly built upon the legacy of Pengil the Prosperous and the lucrative trading links he established, creating wealth for all. The whole of Reevesburg owes your family line a great debt. Were it not for Raw's intervention at the clan moot, all might have been squandered by Pengil's dissolute son." Etta's words gave Marl pause for thought. "Father always said killing Ollie in the dueling circle was the hardest thing he ever had to do. He did what was right, but that didn't make it easy." "Taking a life should always be hard," Etta replied. "Pengil doted on his son, but in the end, that was Ollie's downfall. He was too cosseted, his every want and need attended to without any effort on his part. It was sad, seeing that intelligent and cheerful young boy slowly succumb to the temptations of drink and gluttony. Ollie Pengil's son was unfit to rule, and everyone could see it. Pengil was wise, but when it came to preparing his own son to assume the mantle of clan chief, he was too blinded by love to see the truth. Raw did what had to be done, and Ollie should have ceded power, rather than desperately clinging on to it when all hope had long since fled. Marl took a deeper draught of his ale, the soup bowl in front of him forgotten. "You speak as if you knew my father." He frowned, looking at Etta more closely, trying to see if he had met her before. "Did you serve at his court in Ulfkel's keep when you were younger?" Etta shook her head. "No, but I have made it my business to be well informed and know the history of our clan. And by history I don't mean the various battles, conquests, and alliances which have established the Reevesburg of today. I'm talking about the people involved, understanding who they truly were, and, more importantly, knowing why they did what they did." "Are you a travelling bard?" Marl asked, increasingly mystified by this strange woman. Once again Etta shook her head. "No, although I do like a good story. Did you know this inn is built on the site where Sigborn Dragonslayer came ashore after he returned from his ill-fated voyage to the Fire Isle? His small sailing craft landed at the cove nearby, which can be reached from the stone steps found at the back of this building. He was aiming for Reevesburg, but of course Sigborn's ability to get himself lost was the reason he was sailing back from the Fire Isle in the first place. I'm sure you know the legend. Tell me, was Sigborn right to abandon his lover, Jade, never returning to the Fire Isle to be with her, despite his promises?" It wasn't that simple, mused Marl. Sigborn wasn't just any man. He was the only son and heir of Reeve, and he had responsibilities to his clan. We're one extended family, and blood ties are more important than anything else. It was how my father raised me, remembering the lesson of poor Ollie's fate, and how I'm raising my own son, Colfinar. Clan always comes first, even before matters of the heart. When Reeve died, Sigborn had no choice, and he was one of our greatest chiefs because he put the clan above all else. No one else could have peacefully ended the enmity between us and the Romsdal clan, making us one of the most powerful of the clans on the coast of the Red Fars Sea. Una returned with roasted fowl and vegetables, together with more ale, which she set down on the table with a smile. Etta took her pot from its place, keeping warm by the fire, and poured herself more black tea. The Black Raven was becoming noisy as Marl's warriors continued to drink, Dufan looking harassed as he tried to keep their ale cups filled. Despite the racket, Etta's soft voice cut through the noise. Raw raised you well to be worthy of the title of chief, a heavy burden to carry for one so young. Half my life, Marl replied, as he tore off the leg of his chicken and began to eat. I was only 19 when father passed into Navan's halls. But as you said, he prepared me well. Indeed. For example, there's a reason you haven't taken the fast sea route from Calamar to Reevesburg, choosing to travel overland instead. Marl leaned back in his chair. And what might that be? A chief needs to know his people if he's to rule them wisely, and see the extent of his lands for himself. When I heard you were setting out from Calamar, I knew your route would eventually bring you here. Marl chewed on the chicken leg, giving himself time to think on Etta's words. He put his food down on his plate and took a mouthful of ale, and all the while Etta sat there, saying nothing, just watching him, with an unnerving smile. So our meeting here today was no accident. I'm not sure how I should feel about that revelation. Take it as a compliment. I've been preparing for this encounter for several years. Marl felt a sense of disquiet at Etta's words. I'll ask you again. Do I know you? No, you don't. We've not met before today, Marl Rawson, chief of the Reevesburg clan. However, I know when you were entertained by your friend and ally, Jokul Johansson, Jarl of Calamar, you lost a wager over an axe-throwing contest with his 3 sons, Jotvi, Kuli, and Nala. I understand it was rather cold when you jumped, stark naked, into the water down at the docks. Deeds more befitting the young man of 19, rather than the seasoned warrior soon to see 40, wouldn't you say? Plenty of people saw that, Marl muttered, feeling his cheeks flush, though I confess I didn't expect word to travel quite so quickly. Afterwards, as you were warming yourself by the fire in your chambers, Jokul's wife, Asleaf, remarked that if bone-headed stupidity was the mark of a long-lived chief, you'd easily see 100. A chill ran up Marl's spine. How could you possibly know that? Etta's smile widened, and she leaned closer across the table. That how is very important. As I said, I've been preparing for this meeting for years. I have my loyal contacts in Calamar, Romsdal, Reevesburg, and Lake Tull, as well as further afield in the other rival clans. That's a valuable thing to have in your service. Do you mean to tell me you're putting yourself forward for a position at my court? Marl couldn't believe the audacity of the old woman, shaking his head as she nodded enthusiastically. The world is changing, Marl Rawson. Reevesburg will face challenges in the future, and, with a network of informants at your disposal, you would be well placed to meet them. You mean a network of spies, making you a spy, too. Why on Amaran should I trust you? I'm not asking you to trust me. Marl stared at Etta, baffled. What? You're asking the wrong question, she replied, her beetle-black good eye boring into him. The question is not do you trust me, but will I be useful in your service? I came here intending to seek you out, but Dino Villain guided the fates and brought you directly to my table. That's telling. This meeting was destined to happen. I ask for nothing more than food and lodgings at Ulfkel's keep, and sufficient coin to reward those who bring me useful information. I propose a trial. I will spend 6 months at your court as your adviser, and, after that time, if my service has been of value, you can keep me at your court. If not, I will leave of my own accord. The decision will be yours and no one else. Why? Asked Marl, still stunned. The same reason you serve as chief. The same reason Sigborn remained here and never returned to the Fire Isle. Clan always comes first, and I wish to be of service to Reevesburg. The following morning, Etta the crone accompanied Marl Rawson as they left the Black Raven, and he continued on the journey south to Reevesburg and Ulfkel's keep. After a month in his service, Marl bade Etta to stay on at his court, where she remained until his dying day. Through those years, some questioned the true motives of this mysterious stranger, whilst others resented the influence she held over their chief. But none could dispute the value of her network of spies, nor her wise counsel. And, for many years, the Reevesburg clan prospered.